Show with Donovan Lewis, Matt McLaren, and the Ticket Team. Get your hot Cowboys opinions and immediate knee-jerk reactions freshly served right now. On Sports Radio 96.7 and 1310, The Ticket.
Hello.
All right.
This is the Dallas Cowboys postgame show for the last time for the 2025-2026 season. It's Matt McLaren and Donovan Lewis. Online only, as the Stars are playing on The Ticket. So thank you for streaming us on Facebook and Twitch and your sweater like Rich Phillips. Whatever you're doing, we appreciate you being here with us. We'll be here for a while talking Giants and Cowboys future and what the heck this offseason is going to be all about. But first, like we do every single week, Matt, 34-17, the Giants get the win over the Cowboys. They end the season 3-13. The Cowboys 7-8-1. Any thoughts about this game that we didn't care about?
I think it was a great way to really, if all you wanted to know was what the Cowboys 2025 season was about, then you could have watched that game and it would have told you. A defense that cannot stop anybody, doesn't matter how poor the offense that they're playing is, they can't stop them, and an offense that many times was uninspiring but had potential in spurts. This was a very uninspiring game, very uninspiring effort from the Cowboys in a game in which at least Schottenheimer tried to get us to believe that they cared about getting to 8-8-1, and that mattered, and that winning a game to close the season mattered. That was all a crock of crap.
Boy, it really was. I wish they would have gotten that baloney just owned and done and dusted and not even worry about telling me how much that really mattered, because it gave you a sense early on, because they played their ones on offense and defense the entire first half. And besides Dak and CD and George Pickens, they played the ones the majority of the rest of the way, or whatever they had available. And it just, you're right. It's a capsule of what this season was all about. A defense that couldn't stop anyone.
Right.
And a lot of questions that need to be answered in this offseason. And you start seeing reports online about the changes that they're thinking about making, and it's going to be Matt Eberflus. But we talked about this throughout the entire year, and especially as the season was going on. There's no way you can start this next season saying that Matt Eberflus is your defensive coordinator if you're thinking things are going to be different.
Yeah.
Just everything is going to be the same around here, and if that's the case, then because during the broadcast they talked about, this defense will look different next season, and you looked at me and said, will it? Like, seriously, will it? Because you just don't know what can be done for this thing to get any better. They have so many questions to be answered.
They do.
And I just don't know if that can be in just one offseason where you think you can change this thing around and have a competent defense. And it's not like you are asking the world of this defense. This offense was good this year, really good. And you just needed a defense that was okay, and you didn't get any of that with this Cowboys this year. That's the most disappointing thing about this season. They wound up where we all thought they would wind up. Seriously, everyone out there who thought about this season said maybe 7 wins, 8 wins, maybe on the high end, 9 wins. So we shouldn't be surprised about the results of this entire season. But the way it played out and how bad this defense was, it does make you almost kind of in your head go, okay, what could have been? Because you wasted a really good offensive season from this team, and a team that felt they had to be perfect on offense to even think about winning a football game because their defense couldn't stop anyone. It's a disappointing end to a season that had its ups and downs. It has some pieces that you feel you can go into the future with.
Yeah.
But my goodness, what a nut kick of a season this was.
Yeah, it was really bad. And you look at this, and they became just the 6th team in NFL history, or I guess the 8th team to allow 500-plus points in a single season. They did that today. 6th most points allowed all time. So the 34 points allowed today, that's 511 points allowed for this season, which is the 6th most in the history of this league. And then you look at this in franchise history, they set a record today. That was the 9th time this season they've allowed 30-plus points. That was the most that they've ever allowed in a single season. 9 times this year they allowed a team to score 30 points or more against them. So you look at this, and last year they allowed 468 points, which was 2nd worst in the league. Well, this year they allowed 511 points, which is going to finish because Cincinnati didn't allow that many points today. So they allowed the most points in the league this year. And that's where you kind of look at it and you go, okay, so what is wrong? Because, yeah, Eberflus had a problem. He didn't do what he needed to do. But Zimmer's defense last year wasn't any better, much. And then they talked about, we got to stop the run all year long. They talked about, we can get rid of Micah because, look, we've got this run stuffer in Kenny Clark that we've acquired. And then they made the trade for Quinnen Williams. And while it felt for that little 3-game stretch in the middle of the season where you started to get some positivity going for this Cowboys team, outside of that, that was it. They didn't stop the run in games. Hell, Tyrone Tracy ran for over 100 yards on him today.
He did.
Tyrone Tracy.
I know. And they hadn't had a running back run for over 100 yards since Tyrone Tracy did it like 23 games ago.
Right. I mean,
we always talk about a get-right game for an offense.
It's ridiculous.
And the Giants came in saying, yeah, we want to get right. Now, a lot of their fans are going to be pissed because they could possibly go from the 2nd overall pick to the 7th. And if you're thinking overall picture with the Cowboys, yes, they lose this game. It's a very uninspiring effort. You have not answered anything. I think the only questions you've answered is who you don't want coming back on this team and how you're trying to see if you can maneuver trying to fill those holes with the little draft picks that you have. You do have a couple of premium picks, but then after that, no 2nd rounder, no 3rd rounder until it's a compensatory pick, and that's going to be late in the 3rd round. So you're going to go a long time between draft picks. So I think the only questions you've answered is like, okay, this person we probably can do without this person on this team moving forward to see if you can trying to get back to where you think you should be. But other than that, man, it's a mid team, and you've been saying this for the longest. They're mid, and we know that. And they have a good offense and a terrible defense. That's going to equal a mid team. Those numbers that will come out from this defense, it's going to be pretty staggering as far as being at the bottom of the league. And there's not a lot of things you can do about it. I was just looking at the contract status of a lot of players on defense. You got a lot more questions. Okay, you have a couple of guys that are on the hook as far as salary goes, but do you want to bring them back? Malik Hooker is on the hook for $9 million next year. Does that excite you at all to bring him back?
No.
This team can't tackle. This team, the 2nd level of this defense, may be the worst it's been in franchise history. Seriously.
I think that's fair.
And to try and see if you can overhaul that in just one offseason is not going to happen. So there are going to be some of those same challenges that you have trying to put together this damn roster for next year and see who you want to bring back and who you want to lead this defensive roster. If you don't have any news out of the Star tomorrow that Matt Eberflus has been released, then I don't know what the hell they're doing. Seriously. You got to do something. You got to just say, all right, if we're going to continue to try to do things the same way we've been doing it, we're going to get the same results. And that's no championship game in 30 years.
Maybe allow your head coach to pick who he'd like.
No, that would be a thought. But
that'd be an idea to allow
doubt.
Brian Schottenheimer tomorrow to say, look, this isn't the guy I wanted. This isn't working. We have got to bring in somebody who's young and innovative that is doing things differently that may not currently be a defensive coordinator, but somebody like an Al Harris perhaps that used to be here.
Sure.
Somebody like that who you view as up and coming that can come in and give this a fresh set of eyes. Not Mike Zimmer, who's been in the league for 80 years.
But you know their MO. That's what they want. They want a guy that's had head coaching experience, so maybe you can fall back on that. And it always makes your head coach a little bit uncomfortable because you have that right behind them as far as if things are going poorly for the team. So, man, I don't know.
They did nothing well. Not a single thing defensively did they do well. They didn't rush the passer. They didn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They didn't take the ball away. Anything that you would look at for a defense, like just one thing, but Matt Eberflus, they allowed a lot of points, but at least they take the ball. They do nothing. They do nothing. This is the most disgusting defense that any Cowboys fan has ever experienced in their lifetimes. It's absolute garbage. And changing Eberflus isn't going to fix it immediately. And I don't know, we've talked about this on our show where we went through and looked at it. At least defensively, they have an opportunity because of some of the contracts. We already saw it with Trayvon Diggs. They can do it with Kenny Clark. They can move on from a lot of these guys on defense that are either in expiring contracts or came in on one-year deals to try and at least reinvent this thing as much as you can. But again, as we've talked about, when you invest what they've invested on this defense with draft capital as many times as they've missed, it's extremely difficult to turn things around in 1 year.
It really, truly is. And it's just, sorry about that. I didn't mean to hit the mic like that. I'm not that upset.
Why?
But,
Damn it.
but it's just
This team sucks.
it really truly does, and it was a sucky year.
It was a sucky year.
But it felt like it was even worse than what you even anticipated going into it. Because even if you thought this team was going to be around 7, 8, 9 wins, it's the way it went about it
Yeah, that's true.
that has you kind of twisted in knots and kind of like, what the hell is going on? Because you just don't know how many more years of effectiveness from Dak you're going to get. Like, we anticipate it's going to be many, but you just never know how that can just fall off of a cliff like we've seen it with some quarterbacks and some players in this league. And you wasted an offensive year that any other team would have gotten. They would have been right there in the playoff mix. Maybe not in the mix of winning a championship, but still in the mix right there. And this team has been out of it for, it felt like week 5 or 6 of the season.
Yeah, we kept trying to, when they went through that 3-game stretch where they beat the Raiders, we're like, okay, well, hey, you came out of the bye. You got to get a win. You did. Then they beat the Eagles, and then you beat the Chiefs. Well, we probably overrated the Eagles' offense, and we sure as hell overrated what the Chiefs were. I think that that's clear as day now.
And your offense went out there and won that game.
Right.
It's not like your defense was stout. Your offense went out there and took that game. You gave up 28 points, still got the win, and everyone was going nuts because they beat Kansas City. And then they got slapped right back to reality with Detroit, Minnesota, and the Chargers.
Right.
I mean, right back. That defense gave up 44, 34, 34 in those 3 weeks. And just make no mistake about anyone thinking that this team had a chance when they showed themselves who they really are in those 3 weeks after that Kansas City win.
Yeah, and I think to your point, maybe the most frustrating thing, and this is one of the more frustrating seasons, because you do go 7-9-1. And like you said, a lot of people thought this would be maybe a 7, 8, 9 win team at most. You're going to flirt with 500, but you're probably right underneath it. That's where they ended up being. But, man, you look at this, I don't know that anybody would have painted the picture of you're going to be a 500 team because you have the worst defense in the league, but you have a lights-out, potent number 1 offense. Like, if your offense was kind of so-so and your defense was so-so, then it would make a lot more sense. But this thing, that's where the frustration comes in, because you can sit here and say, man, there were so many times that if the defense had just made a play or two here or there, this could look completely different. But then again, as frustrating as it is with this offense, what the hell were you doing against Arizona? Why were there struggles in the red zone? Why were there times where it felt like when the defense did make a stop, the offense couldn't come through for them and vice versa? This is probably one of the biggest lacks of complementary football in a season that I can recall seeing from the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, it's true. And if you want to point specifically to this game with the Giants, it continues a trend of this team really performing poorly in the second half.
Yeah.
And is it because now, and that's why you kind of lean towards maybe coaching being a little bit in the mix also, because everyone kind of fell on Schottenheimer's side with how he, his relationship with the dealings with the media and what he's saying. He pretty much says exactly what he feels. And we're not used to that with Cowboys coaches around here. So everyone's kind of on his side.
Yeah.
But you saw like the last 4 weeks that when you go into halftime and you have to go out and try and play your best game ball in the second half, man, this team has been lacking on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Like, this was a piss poor effort tonight.
It was.
In the second half for the Cowboys, defensively for sure. And then on offense, they just gave up. Even when you put Joe Milton in and you don't want to risk Dak, okay, I understand. I think everyone's okay with that. Just even your game plan moving forward, just trying to see. You still had your number one offensive line out there. You took CD and George Pickens out. Right. So obviously you didn't give one damn about winning the football game. But now after that, just the play calling and all that, dude, it was one of those, just get us the hell out of here, get the season over with so we can go about our business. And I think that does a disservice, man, especially with the lip service that we got as far as going into this game from Dak, from
a total crock.
Coach Schottenheimer, all those. Oh, man, we care about winning the season. If Dak has started every single game, they've always had a winning season and not a losing season. Well, that's done. That's done and dusted because they put out a performance that was just take Jadeveon Clowney out of it. And other than that, it was a piss-poor performance pretty much from every single person on that squad.
Yeah, it was a very strange game. In the first half, Jaden Blue comes in, has 11 carries for 76 yards. In the second half, he has 5 for -12. I don't think he had a positive run the entire second half.
Didn't feel like it.
It was horrible. Joe Milton was horrible. Absolutely atrocious in the second half. And what I don't understand is you got all that lip service, as you say, talking about, hey, let's get to 8-8-1. This game means something. you start Dak and you start CD and you start Pickens. With apparently what they were trying to explain to us on the broadcast, the idea that Dak could put up a number to lead the league in passing yards.
Right.
Well, you're only down by 6 at the half, and then you pull all those guys out. So you obviously didn't care about winning. The plan was never to come in and win the game. And if that's the case, then why the hell did you start those guys to begin with?
That's my whole point. It's like, don't give us the fake notion that this game is going to be about anything and starting these guys because it matters if you win, and then decided at halftime, well, we're only down 6, but it really truly doesn't matter if we win. And that drive at the end of the half to give the Giants the lead may have just kind of sealed everything as far as what this team is and who they've been this entire year. Because the very first play on that drive, they went for it on 4th down, which I don't care.
Right.
This game doesn't matter. Go down there in 4th down. I would have been more pissed that when they went to the line of scrimmage and tried to draw them off sides and then go out and kick a field goal. No, man. Go for it. Who cares? Well, then the very first play, it's a 5-yard penalty because of neutral zone infraction from Solomon Thomas. Okay, whatever. And now you get to the 3rd and 6, and they stop. Oh, no. They got the first down, but it was the 15-yard penalty. No. I'll take that back. They had a 1st and 25 because of a tripping penalty, and then they get the first down from a Kenneth Murray unnecessary roughness, and then it's a screen that looked like it had nowhere to go that wound up a 29-yard touchdown, and that just kind of throws your hands up and go, all right, whatever, man. They don't care. I don't care.
And they didn't care.
No.
And you could tell they didn't care. And this is the frustrating game, and it's got to be so difficult to get yourself ready to go for a game you know doesn't matter, and that, oddly enough, the weird benefit of if you lose the game, you improve your draft position, and it hurts a divisional rival's draft position. Like the Giants, I think you mentioned this earlier, they were 2nd in the draft coming in. Now they could be 7th. And the Cowboys, depending on what Miami does today, could move up to 11th in the draft. So there's this weird benefit. Everybody is conscious of that. They all know what's going on. And
I'll tell you, every single player in that locker room, they don't care. They don't care about messing up the Giants' draft position by winning that game. You think that was the motivation to go out there and play ass?
I don't think so. I think it's just they suck. They've sucked all year. Why are we surprised? The Giants what was it, the first game of the year when the Giants – no, that was Philadelphia. Second game.
Oh, yeah, 40-37.
Right,
yeah.
where the Giants put up 37
They put up
points.
37 and 34 against Dallas.
With Russell Wilson in the first game.
Right.
So you make Russell Wilson look like an all-pro again, and then you make the rookie Jackson Dart look like a champion. They run all over you. You can't do anything. It's the same story week in and week out. And they have so many holes defensively that I don't know how. I mean, yeah, Clowney would be nice to bring back. Ezuraku flashed at times this year. I'll give him a pass because he's a rookie, even though he got ejected early on in this game. Supposedly, Deron Bland's good. I don't know if he's 4th highest paid cornerback in the NFL good, but that's what the Cowboys decided to make him.
Right.
Outside of that, Quinnen Williams, yes, obviously Quinnen Williams.
You sign Osa, who's going to make $20 million, over $20 million for the next 3 years.
And he's so good, you had to go trade for Quinnen Williams.
You have a decision to make on Kenny Clark if you want to bring him back or try and see if you can get him for a little bit of a discount. You have a lot of questions, man, about this roster. I know Terrence Steele is signed for 3 more years, but you can get out of his deal for little too. I'm trying to look at this up right now. It's a 9.375 dead cap for Terrence Steele if you want to move on from him. And you have to add some money to the void years of Dak to try and make sure you can maneuver this roster around and maybe have a little bit of fun in free agency. You got to absolutely guarantee you knock these 2 first-rounders out of the park.
That's the key, man.
That's not even a question, man.
They have to be week 1 impact level guys.
Yes, they do.
And quite honestly, unless you study offensive line play, it can be hard to make of an offensive lineman. But Tyler Booker had a great rookie year. He was fantastic, and I think you've got a guy. He may never be what Zach Martin was, but I think he's going to be a high-level top 5 guard in the NFL that's going to be a routine Pro Bowl type guy and borderline all-pro, and I think you saw that as a rookie. If you can do that with 2 defensive players, that will help you drastically.
Yes, it will. You can get – well, it's not even worth almost getting out of Malik Hooker's deal because his is a 9.5 dead cap hit to get out of it this year, and he makes $9 million next year.
So you're going to keep him.
It's just some of those positions that they haven't valued that they're starting to value. One definitely being defensive tackle. They never valued that position at all.
Right.
And now you have 3 guys that are making more than $20 million.
Well, you better hope whoever comes in, if it's not Eberflus, values defensive tackle.
Or safety or something. Or linebacker or something. Like value it so much that you start saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to get a little bit of free agency and bring some guys in here. Because, again, the second level of your defense, I know the pass rush struggle because you don't have Micah. And we thought it was deep, but we all thought it was deep when you had number 11. And now that he left, you see, okay, man, they really, truly needed some help on the outside. And the 2 guys that led them in sacks were 2 dudes that weren't even on the roster until late in training camp, and that was Jadeveon Clowney and James Houston.
Which is absurd.
This says a lot about how your team is
absurd.
constructed, and now you have to focus on that. But, man, the middle of your defense and the back end of your defense now is of major concern. And you just don't have enough draft picks to get it done. You've got to make sure – and they've traded their butts off. I got to give them one thing. They may not dabble in free agency a ton, but they have used maybe even lower-level picks to see if they can throw some issues, some problems at their defense with Logan Wilson, with Kenneth Murray, with Kyer Elam. Like, they're using some of these draft picks, but now you're having to pay the price for that, and they're going to have to dig deep in free agency, I think. But I just don't know if this is enough for them to change their mind on how they construct this roster. Should be.
They got to do something different because what they've done has not worked. And, again, it's not just this season. It's also last year when they were one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
Right.
This is consecutive years with different defensive philosophies where you swapped out different guys, and your defense has still been absolutely horrible while playing alongside a pretty damn good offense. So I don't know what the solution is. Again, you try to remake the roster as much as you can, but you can only do so much. There's certain guys that have to return. And like we've talked about, and we're going to talk about this for the next 3 months because the NFL draft is a little under 4 months away at the end of April coming up in Pittsburgh. You have to hit, man. They have missed too many times. The Cowboys, it's so easy to see what they do. Sam Williams is a great example of this. You let a guy like, I lost his name, the dude that went to, Dorrance Armstrong. You let him go because you believe you've drafted Sam Williams. Hey, we don't need to re-sign Dorrance. Sam Williams is going to come in and make an impact. Well, he doesn't make the impact that you thought. The Marshawn Nealon situation, tragic for what it is, but it does impact the personnel that you have available to you. And so now it's almost like you can see it again. Well, are we really going to sign Sam Williams? Because he can walk away. So they drafted Donovan Ezeraku. Well, Ezeraku flashed. The problem is that when you do that and you miss on those guys, as we've seen them miss, not just day 1 guys, but day 2 and day 3 guys as well in the draft, when you miss on those guys, you don't have any depth. You don't have the next guy up, and then you're struggling to find somebody in free agency where you don't spend money anyway, and you just keep rolling out the same damn problem.
And you have to make those moves, and you have to use those quality picks to go get a Quentin Williams or go get a Logan Wilson because you are lacking. And now I think that even it affects the mindset about George Pickens. Yeah. Can you use that money to try and fix a defense that was last in pretty much every single category? Or do you keep this offense rolling and see if you can just keep outscoring people and you're the Cincinnati Bengals of the NFC?
And we've seen how that's worked for Cincinnati. Now, granted, Joe Burrow's dealt with a lot of injuries,
right,
so a little bit different. But even then, when Cincinnati's offense is rolling, we've seen a lot of those games that look very similar to Dallas.
38-33, 41-38. Like, it's just they have to be tired of that scenario in these games and saying we got to have a defense that we can rely on to go out there and get a stop, and that hasn't been the case all year long. They had defensive success against the Raiders.
Okay. The Raiders.
And then that game against Philadelphia also.
The Raiders.
That's pretty much about it. That's the only time that this defense is truly flashed.
It's crazy. You look at this. You play 17 games in the NFL, as we all know. The Cowboys scored 24 or more points in 13 of 17 games, and they finished with a losing record. That's incredible. That is unbelievable that you can score that many points and wind up with a losing record. Now, that being said, I mean, you go and look at all the teams that have given up like 475 points or more in the history of the league. The Cowboys are the only one that has 7 wins. I mean, those are 3-win teams, 2-win teams.
Yeah, it just kind of tells you where the offense was this year and how good they were, and it's just outscoring people. So you get a really lackluster effort from the Cowboys today against the Giants. had everyone fooled that you're just going to go out there and get this win because this truly matters about finishing 8-1, and you don't want a losing season. And there it is, a losing season for the Cowboys at 7-8-1. No, I'm sorry, 7-9.
7-9-1.
7-9-1.
Yes. So you add the 7 and the 9 and then the 1.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That I am math man,
I know.
so that does equal 17.
I knew you'd figure it out.
No doubt about that. But, man, you've got a long list of unrestricted free agents for the Cowboys and
Yes.
a lot of decisions that need to be made. So if you want to get with us here on this postgame show, the number is right there on the screen, 972-708-4313. 972-708-4313. The Cowboys lose to the Giants 34-17. They score 10 points in the first quarter and get a late touchdown in the fourth. And that's just been the script for this team all year long. Maybe get off to a decent start, and then all of a sudden they just fade in the second half. And defensively against the Giants in the second half, they went out there and scored 18 points in the second half and 34 points for the game against that team, and the Cowboys lose.
Yeah, and you do the math on that, and whatever that adds up to now is 511 points. So, yeah, they literally they allowed an average of 30.0 points for the year. Right on the dot, they allowed an average of 30 points per game on the year. Which
and
is
guess
atrocious.
what? The Giants were driving when Tracy fumbled.
Yeah, otherwise it would have been worse.
It would have been worse.
You would have expected that. And now, kind of the overall view of this franchise, that number 30, you go to 8 Super Bowls in the first 30 years.
Yep.
Well, Super Bowl 60 is coming up next month in San Francisco. They've been to 0 in the last 30 years. 14 of the first 26 NFC title games, 0 in the last 30 years. And now you allow 30 points per game to round it out. It's like a gift out of a basket with a nice little bow. Here you go, Jerry. Your franchise sucks.
Yep. It's a
Merry
in
Christmas.
the wide receiver pass that should have been completed would have put more points on the
That's
board
right.
also.
That was an awesome play, though.
Yeah, no, it really
They
was.
just
And it was
whiffed
there.
on it.
They just couldn't get it done. It's a defense that sucked the life out of this fan base pretty much all year long.
Yeah,
as
it's
they
bad,
were
man.
terrible at the bottom with every single category. And you thought, hey, man, you can't get any worse. It has to be better. And it never got better.
They just kept getting worse, and teams that should have no business putting up points on you the way that they did put up points on you the way that they did. And
Right.
even teams that you think might be somewhat decent, like Minnesota and the Chargers, they didn't have great offenses. They had no problems putting up a ton of points on the Cowboys. Like you said earlier, the only team that struggled was the Raiders, who
Struggled against everyone in
Right.
this entire league.
they're the worst team in the NFL and have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. They have locked into that today. So it's a lot of questions, as we say, and we'll spend our shows in the next few weeks trying to figure this out. As, of course, we know how this goes. We'll go through the NFL playoffs. We'll watch 2 teams in the Super Bowl who won't be the Cowboys yet again for the 30th straight year. And then we'll turn our attentions towards draft season and start looking to see what will the Cowboys do with those 2 first-round picks. What makes sense? And quite honestly, as long as they're defensive picks, it all makes sense.
It truly does. Man, it's just the guys that they have and the decisions that this front office has made recently, as far as bringing some people in just to see. Joe Milton I can't remember what he was traded for. Was that a 5th-round pick?
Something like that.
It looks like a pretty bad
Yeah.
experiment with him. It just doesn't even look like a capable backup quarterback. And then you did the same thing with
Mingo.
He
Yep. Who's
got on the
pointless.
field today, but yeah,
He won't be
it
on the team
truly
next
is. That
year.
was a 4th-rounder. You did the
Yep.
same thing with Trey Lance and all
Yep.
these things that they are trying to do to try and improve this team. It just chips away at the depth, as you talk about, because, man, you don't have that 4th, you don't have that 5th. I know those are picks that you just can't count on, but you're just giving them away for people to come here and show that they just don't belong on this squad if you're trying to be a better team. And they got Joe Milton locked in. As far as not a lot of money, but it feels like, okay, that's going to be the guy backing up the Dak, and there's no confidence in he can come in and lead a damn drive, let alone try and go out and win a game.
I feel less confident in him than I did in Cooper Rush.
Oh, me too.
The athleticism and
Absolutely.
the power of the arm, of course, are light years beyond Cooper Rush. But if you have a Dak tragic accident like we did a couple years ago, and he tears a hamstring off his other bone and has to miss 10 games next year, I don't know that they don't go 0-10 with that dude playing quarterback.
He has no confidence. He made the one mistake and just threw it right to the Giants defender, And then after that, it felt like he didn't even want to let it go.
Yeah.
And when he did, it just sailed it out of
No
bounds.
touch, no confidence.
None whatsoever, man. And I worry, and I really, truly do. And I don't know if the second half is going to change the mindset of the Cowboys front office. I was a little worried at halftime that they would see the performance of Jaden Blue, and we talked about this during halftime, and say, oh, you know what? Look at that. 76 yards in the first half on 11 carries. We don't have to go and spend a lot of money. We're fine. We can just let Javonte Williams walk, and we'll be okay. And he had a second half where he had 5 carries for minus 12 yards, and I don't know if that's going to be enough to say, whoa, hey, hold your horses. He did look good early on in the first half, but, man, they've got so much thinking to do. They have so many decisions to make, and there is not trust one in the world that I think that they're going to go out there and make those right decisions.
Yeah, it's hard to believe in it. It's hard to have that kind of faith right now because it's almost at times as if they dumb luck into some of their choices, especially with the draft these days. And I don't know how you can sustain that. And maybe you start to point the finger at Will McClay at some point and the decisions that type with the scouting department are making. Obviously, Jerry and Steven are a part of this. The coaching staff, of course, is a part of this. But there just seems to be something missing in their evaluations of the guys they're bringing in. Somebody stood on the table for Kenneth Murray. Somebody stood on the table for Kyer Elam, who's not even on the team anymore.
Right.
And some of these other choices that they made, that and then in the draft as well, to bring these guys in that are not panning out. And you can't miss on those because if you're going to be a draft and develop team and you draft guys and they're not ready to go, then whoever you bring in free agency at least has to get you to a point to where the drafted guys can contribute. And if you miss on both of those, well, we just see what happens the last 2 years. Great example of that. This team went 7-10 last year, 7-9-1 this year. Right below mediocre. They're a little bit below average. And I think that any of us watching these games probably look at them and go, it's kind of a little bit of a below average. They don't suck. Everybody, like I get heated and they go, oh, they suck. They don't suck. They're not the Raiders.
Right.
But they're not good. They're right below that.
All right, so put your GM hat on. And you're trying to make sure that this team is going to
I'd trade as whatever I could for as many first-round picks. I do it. Look, you know how many times I've done this on Madden? I got this. Ask me what you need.
Well, you've got to get better. You really, truly do. And there's no way you can come back and say 7-9-1 or 8-9 or 9-8 is going to be satisfactory to trying to build something towards the future. And now you have these unrestricted free agents that you have to make decisions on to try and bring back and try to improve your team. So let's go George Pickens. Are you paying the money for George Pickens to come back as wide receiver too?
Yes. I think I would tag him, and it may piss him off, but welcome to life. I'm making a professional business decision on you. I'm going to tag your ass. You don't have to like it. Show us you can do this again. Because if you don't, then the money that you thought you were going to get isn't going to be available for you anyway. So I honestly think I would tag him, which, of course, is all 100% guaranteed.
Sure.
And you got to make that money work. You can't float it around. You can't add void years and that type of thing. But it's unless he's going to give you something that you can walk into and be like, okay, we feel really comfortable with this as a number 2 number, not $33 million, then I think I might just tag him.
All right, who's your running back?
That's where that gets interesting for me. I like Javonte Williams. I thought he did a great job this year. But what's that going to cost you? Do you believe in investing $7 to $9 million at the running back position?
And the Cowboys don't, unless you tag someone, they are not believing in valuing that position at all. I feel like that's the position where they say we can go to the bin and find anyone to come in and do that exact same thing because they've invested so heavily in their offensive line.
And maybe they're right on that one. I don't know that that's the case. I still – Jaden Blue, and again, we talked about this at halftime. I don't know what in the world happened with him this season, but they spent 2 draft picks on running backs who barely touched the field this year. So essentially in a season in which you really could have used somebody that could come in and make plays for you, even in the 5th round, they drafted 2 guys that are quite honestly pointless.
Yeah.
Until the last game of the year when you were already eliminated.
Right. And again, another guy off the street who was just chilling came here, and it looks like he's by far and away the second best running back on this team to where you would say, yeah, Malik Davis, is he the one coming back?
And maybe that's the punch. Maybe you got to figure out what can we get Javonte Williams for affordably, pair him with Malik Davis, and maybe you feel like you've got a good duo at running back there.
And in order to try and free up some money, you know you're going to rework Dak.
Yeah, they'll do that into perpetuity.
Are you done with Terrence Steele? Are you
Yes.
moving Guyton over to the right side? Are you keeping Tyler Smith at left tackle? It feels like that's a position where he just doesn't want to be. And are you saying, hey, just buck up, Holmes, because that's where you're going?
Yeah, and then that's where it's why we always, when guys complain, oh, he's just holding out for more money, he wants more money. Well, no, yes, of course he does, because they may be about to screw Tyler Smith over. You're like, hey, man, you're going to play left tackle, and you're the 10th highest paid left tackle or whatever it is.
But you paid me as the second highest paid guard in the league, where I'm an all-pro, and that's what he's saying. I'm an all-pro guard. Even he's saying and true. Pushing back on that a bit. But they're going to throw him out there.
Can you afford that? But, again, it's the franchise's problem because you missed on Guyton. And you created this problem for yourself because you drafted a guy in the first round. This wasn't the third tackle taken in the first round. This was, if I recall correctly, the 8th tackle taken in the first round. The 8th tackle was Tyler Guyton. So all the other franchises thought there were 7 guys better at left tackle than he was going to be, or right tackle, since that's what he played in college, and the Cowboys forced him to play left tackle. So I don't know what the solution is there. If you're not ready to get rid of Guyton, then it feels like you almost have to move him to right tackle and tell Tyler Smith, hey, man, you're going to play left tackle next year. I don't know what to tell you. You're employed and you make $20 million a year. Get over it.
Yeah, you can say get over it, but if you're going to play me at left tackle and I'm that effective, then I should.
Right, which is his right to come back and be like, well, you're not paying me like that.
You paid me as a guard and not as a tackle, and I know I don't think there's anything he's going to do about it, but you can understand that frustration where he is. And, hey, if you want to put me in the best position that's going to be advantageous for me, I am an all-pro guard. So figure that tackle spot out. I didn't go in there and put the slip in for Tyler Guyton and missed on him, so why am I going out there and doing that? So just so many questions that need to be answered. I don't even know if we have the time to scrub the defense and talk about that.
That's a whole other thing.
It really truly is.
Because, again, because of what they've done in getting rid of their second and third round picks, you almost wonder.
Because you can't get rid of everybody.
Right. So do you keep your 2 first round picks? You're going to keep whatever it ends up being, 11 or 12. I imagine you're keeping that.
Right.
But do you keep whatever that Packers pick is, or –
there's not a team in hell that's going to trade with you, and you're going to trade that Packers pick.
And maybe you're right.
They're going to say, give me your pick or we're not doing anything.
Well,
I want the highest one of the first-round picks. But I know that's what I would do.
Right, but maybe in the draft, when you get to the draft, and we're sitting there on April 23rd in Pittsburgh, and it's the 26th pick, whatever it is, the Cowboys are on the clock. Oh, they trade out of the first round to pick up a second and a third. Or would you rather have late? Because, again, there's not 26 first-round grades in a draft. So do you feel comfortable that, hey, we already look at this as kind of a second-round pick, so we're going to drop back and actually get another second-round pick and pick up an extra pick?
It's probably the smartest thing to do.
Maybe.
But there will be a lot of people upset at that. And
I
don't blame them.
But I can understand it. But, man, they need bodies, and they need impact players.
But the defense that bad, you're right. You got to – we always talk – and we talked about this in the free agent period last year. They're throwing numbers at bad problems, trying to fill those holes. And they did hit on a couple of things. And now you can't throw the numbers because of how you've positioned yourself. And maybe it is about getting some more picks to see if you can fix some problems, because it's just been so bad with those premium picks, man. That's why I don't kind of trust those guys to say, oh, man, we moved down and got 2, maybe even 3 picks from that first-round pick. Well, are you going to hit? Are you going to do something with it?
Right.
And they really haven't done that.
I mean, they need – I know they need an edge rusher, but it feels like they need an impact linebacker who can read, has smart football instincts and IQ, maybe more than anything. Like somebody like Sean Lee, who was not a first-round pick, by the way.
Right.
But somebody like that plays a position like that, and like a Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech, somebody like that you notice that is always around the ball, that it seems to always be in the right place. Or a Jack Campbell or somebody in Detroit. Like, they just don't have that. And I like Overshown. He's got the speed. I don't know if he's that guy, even that. Like that Sean Lee type of, oh, no, you're in the wrong position. Like just that football IQ and that mentality of understanding where everybody is supposed to be and how this is supposed to look. Feels like they just don't have that.
No, because Logan Wilson is locked in, man. It's not like you just traded for him and say, oh, you can get rid of him. He's locked in for 2 more years.
Well, and maybe going through the offseason with the team, he can become that guy.
At $6.5 and $7.2 million. That's a lot of money.
He's going to have to be. And maybe with a healthy Overshown, because, again, he came back and he showed flashes Hopefully that dude can have a healthy, full offseason and actually give us a full, healthy season. And perhaps pairing him and Logan Wilson together. But it almost seems like they didn't even like Logan Wilson because they kept putting Kenneth Murray out there.
And the one game where he just didn't even get in, and it was like an oversight. Like, how could you even do that?
No, we forgot that guy was on the team.
He's just standing there like, hello, hi, I'm here.
So I was like, who the hell is that guy? Did we trade for you?
Yeah, Wilson? Owen? Who is that? I don't know who it is.
Yeah, so there's just so many things that need to change on this team, and you can only do so much. And we've talked about this, and this is, I think, very important. You need to go get a defensive coordinator, and it has to be a commitment so that he can build a defense that is not turning over every year. This is my scheme. Here are the players that I need for it. Go get it. And even if it struggles next year, you got to run it back.
No doubt. And I almost feel like you just don't even know what you have as far as personnel goes to say, okay, let me go get a guy that will fit the players that we have that's going to be here. What is that?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
It's if make Dan Quinn, Mike Zimmer, and Eberflus have a kid, and then that's the guy that you need to coach your team. Because this defense has elements
Why
of all
did you
three of
need
those
Zimmer
guys.
in the three-way, though?
Well, he was here for a year.
Yeah, they were terrible.
So he coached them.
Okay.
All right,
fine.
Right. We don't have to do the menage a trois with the grown men coaches. We'll just have a duo.
with the Zimmer. I feel like he wouldn't be into
Eberflus
that.
and Quinn then.
Yeah.
And you merge them together. And I don't know that guy exists. There are some names out there that you look at that I think could come in here and be a solid defensive coordinator. There may be some guys on staffs that get let go that had good defenses. Cleveland's interesting to me with Schwartz. What if they decide to clean house? And could you bring in a guy like that? But at the same time, you have to ask this question. Who wants to come here and operate under the structure of which you have to operate? And it may be somebody like a Jim Schwartz, who's a former head coach, who may be like, hey, I'm cool. I'm an older dude. I've been in the league a long time. Versus a young up-and-coming guy who's like, hell no, I don't want to go be in that.
Right.
And it always feels that way. That's why the Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen things from last year, both those teams win their division. Chicago and Jacksonville, both are going to the playoffs with first-year head coaches. Well, go get that guy. How? The Cowboys are never going to pay a head coach like that. There is not a young, up-and-coming mind in this game that wants to come and have their first job be under the structure of what the Cowboys are, which is why you get Schottenheimer. And then you hope that you can put pieces around, and you basically have built out a cheap-ass coaching staff that you hope works.
Dak Prescott finished the year with 4,552 yards passing, 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. I know they were looking for him maybe to get the NFL passing yards title, but he only finished 103 yards ahead of Matt Stafford. So if Matt Stafford gets to 104 yards tonight, Matt Stafford will have the lead in passing yards. And Jared Goff, if he gets 319 yards, then he will pass Dak also. So I guess they just weren't concerned about him getting that passing title. You know what? I don't care about that. Who cares? Only thing I care about is just trying to dupe me into thinking that this game meant something for the psyche and the culture in the room as far as not having a losing record and putting that performance out tonight, to this afternoon. That's what gets me. That was a terrible, terrible performance today.
It was.
Man.
It was a terrible
so
performance. Bad. I don't even know that there's a positive to take away. Clowney, as you mentioned, Jaden Blue in the first half. That's it.
Yep, that's it. And now you can go back to the Campo years of 2000 and 2002 for the first time they've had back-to-back losing seasons.
Man, that's amazing.
3 straight 5-11 seasons under Campo, and now with a 7-10 record under McCarthy and a 7-9-1 record under Schottenheimer, the first time they've had back-to-back losing seasons. In a year that, man, we felt like they set Mike McCarthy up to fail. And it worked, and it got him out of here. Now you bring Brian Schottenheimer in, and just to try and kind of overview this season and think how you truly, truly feel about it. I know the performance of the defense was historically bad for this franchise, so that's really tough to look over. But as far as the offense goes, and Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach, I think the last 4 weeks, maybe, Brian Schottenheimer left a lot to be desired coaching-wise, play calling-wise, decision-wise. I think he left a little bit to be desired. And I don't know if it's because you have a lot of people saying, man, we got some film on him now. Let's see if he can adjust to the adjustments everyone else is making. And it kind of felt like Schottenheimer couldn't do that as a whole with his entire team, and even with his offense, because it feels like after halftime, man, they would struggle to move the ball and score points in the second half in the last month.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of Schottenheimer's first year, honestly. And I think you're talking about a team, as you mentioned, was 7-10 last year, had a losing record. Some of the things that they went through, I thought he handled really well. It's very difficult for, hey, you're a first-year head coach. You've never been a head coach. We're going to take probably the best player on your team away from you a week before the season starts. Sorry. And then the tragedy of the Marshawn Nealon thing and having to navigate through that, which would be difficult for anybody to have to go through. I think the football stuff on the field, for the most part, it was a positive. But how much control does he have over the defense? Because is this a coordinator where there's not really a head coach, but we have to name somebody, so you got the title? But Eberflus is the defensive guy, and Schottenheimer is the offensive guy, because we would hear Schottenheimer talk about this after the first few games of the year. Oh, we got to change our communication. We got to work on these things. We see it too. But how much power does he really have to try to go in there and do things? And it's almost like the age-old question. And so I don't know. Again, you kind of look at it, and if you sit here and say, as I mentioned a minute ago, if Ben Johnson, who makes about $13 million a year, and Schottenheimer makes about a third of that, what do you really expect? You're not getting the highest quality candidates for head coach, so what do you expect for a rookie head coach who no other team wanted but you?
Yeah, I think you just have to nail this defensive coordinator. And I know maybe a coordinator just won't turn this thing around to where they're a top-level defense. It even took Dan Quinn a year to kind of get settled and go, all right, you know what? This is what we have, and let's get the players around it to make sure that we can execute what I want. And I don't know if Eberflus was standing on the table trying to do that. I don't know if some of the guys they brought in was like, oh, well, Jack Sanborn, I think, was an Eberflus guy. Because you're going to always have those coordinators that will say, okay, I want this guy man in the middle because he knows exactly what I want to do. Zimmer brought in Kendricks. Eberflus brought in Jack Sanborn, and the communication was just nothing. They had nothing. Right. And no one could adjust to it. Like, I get the whole Michael Parsons. Yes, it is oh, my gosh, I can't believe they traded the best player that we have a week before. But now we're talking week 18 of the NFL season, and we're still bringing it up. Yeah. Like, I think that's dumb. Okay, we get it. He's not here anymore. We have to adapt. He's not here. Let's see what we can do without him. And they never could put their best foot forward. Communication was jacked. That's the one thing that worries me, is the communication in week 8 where they're pointing, not knowing where the hell they're supposed to be. When you have practice every single day, you have meetings every single day, you put a game plan together, and you still don't know what the heck you're doing. Like, that's a lot going on for this team when you're professionals. Like, come on, man, this is high school or middle school. That's when you have issues with that, not in the pros. So they've got to scrub that. I know it's probably challenging. Not probably. It's definitely challenging to have your 4th defensive coordinator in 4 years. But this has to happen. That's not even a question. There's no way you can bring Eberflus back and think, okay, no. This last year when we had the worst defense ever in the history of this franchise, don't sweat it. We'll be fine. Everything's going to be fixed. He's the guy. You can't sell that. No, you can't sell that to a fan base. You can't sell that to the defensive room in there. So you have to do something, but you've got to know. We're talking about being able to nail those two first rounders to make sure that they are effective now when they come in, and they're making plays right now. Yeah. You got to nail that defensive coordinator. And maybe that's when you need to think outside the box and bring someone in. All right, well, we've always wanted to bring someone in that had head coaching experience. Nah, go get the young up-and-comer.
That's what I would like to see.
Get the one that's nasty and hungry, that's going to make sure that everyone knows exactly what the hell he wants to do and how he wants to go about it, and maybe that'll change things around.
Yeah, and it's something to be said, as you point out, the fact that you went 18 games and continue to struggle defensively with the changes that they made and guys having to go to you and say, no, we're more comfortable playing this. Being halfway through the season and the communication issue still being a problem. We talked about this. It's either a defensive coordinator who can't figure out a way to communicate what he's asking these guys to do, or the guys doing it just don't have whatever you need to have to understand it. And they never got that fixed.
Right.
And so you either need to dumb it down for the guys that you have, or you need to change the way that you are communicating it, and those things never seem to happen.
And they always use the word simplify.
Right.
We have to simplify things. Really? Seriously?
Like they're looking at 3 things. We need them to look at 2 things. Well, how did you not figure that out before now? Like, you guys are the coaches. You talk to these guys every day. You see them in practice every day.
And that's the one thing about the Jaden Blue experiment. Because, yeah, he looked really good in the first half. But that dude had ample opportunity to get on the field. They saw him every day and said he wasn't ready. He has to learn how to be a professional. And now he gets the one shot, and he performs well in the first half. And I just kind of think that may cloud their judgment about how they want to value that position.
Probably will.
When you could have shown me that you deserve to be on the field. That dude has a skill on this team that only one other person has on that whole entire field, and that's Kevontae Turpin.
Right.
With their breakaway speed, home run speed. With the only one guy having that, they felt that he couldn't get on the field. Did he have 22 carries, I think, going into this game today when they had no choice because Javonte and Malik Davis was hurt? They had no choice.
Yeah.
And didn't even start him.
Yeah. I would love to know what the problems were where he just did not get it. Where, hey, man, we see this explosive speed. We sure could use this, but you didn't take the trash out like we asked you to.
I know. It's almost like when you hear he has to learn how to
Right.
be a professional. Those are all cliches to saying that dude just doesn't get it.
Right. And again, he came from Texas. I'm sure the talent was enough to Texas, let him get away with stuff. So you get drafted, and it's like, hey, man, this is the NFL. We don't act like this. We don't do this. You can't do this for meetings, and there's teams rules. And whatever the case is, we can't put you out there because we don't trust you because you're not doing the small things. I don't know what the solution is with him. That was strange because, man, he was effective in the first half. But then again, how could you be so effective in the first half and the offensive line couldn't block anything in the second half?
They could not. Well, when you have that backup quarterback in, they were like, oh, you know what?
True.
They're not going to throw. Let's just load the box and see if he can run through that, and he couldn't.
No, he couldn't, and they couldn't block it. And there's so many questions with this team. And they're never going to go through a rebuilding thing because it feels like almost like that's to a point where they're at.
Right.
Because the window was the 3-12-5 seasons. That was the window. Let's be honest. And they crapped the bed against Green Bay, and that broke whatever that
San Francisco,
window was.
they had those not bad matchups. I'll take that back. They had those 2 playoff matchups against San Francisco that they could not win, and then Green Bay broke them.
Right, and it feels like Green Bay completely shut the window of contention for this team to truly make an actual run and be a contender. And since they'll never rebuild.
Because you're locked into 4. So why would you rebuild when you have the highest paid player in the NFL?
So it just feels like it's going to be difficult for them here over the next couple of years to put together something that could compete at the level that we saw them in the regular season compete during those 12-5 seasons.
Unless they change their mindset about how to construct a team. And that's not going to happen. 972-708-4313 if you want to talk to us, just like Hakeem and Frisco did. Hakeem, you are on the Postgame Show.
Gentlemen, happy new to you. Post Merry Christmas, post Happy Kwanzaa to you guys. It is not the way we want to bring in the new year, but hopefully this 2026 will be better when it comes to the end of the year with these Cowboys. This comment as far as the game in and of itself, defense was atrocious. Kenneth Murray I'm an OU fan. Kenneth Murray is absolute garbage and trash. I hope he never sees the field or a Cowboys uniform again. I think after that 15-yard penalty, I don't know if he got back on the field. Hopefully he didn't. Our linebacker crew, as you all have mentioned, maybe the worst linebacker crew, including our new guy, Wilson, Leofau, James and Overshown. Maybe they can be reserves or whatever, but you got to get whole new linebackers. The defensive backfield, I know Rebel's coming back. I know Bland's coming back. But both safeties, any other corners we have, everybody that played in the back 7, they don't need to come back. They're absolute garbage as well. And it was just disappointing that our best defensive end basically got on the field after the first 4 games of the season. That lets you know what our leadership is doing. Here's my question to you guys, and this is regards to the coaching staff. So think about if think about if Schottenheimer was not the coach. Imagine if we brought back McCarthy. everybody in the world be saying we need to fire the head coach. I'm not saying we need to fire Schottenheimer. That's not my point. My point is, at some point, the coaching has to be stepped up. And as you mentioned, Donovan, I think that the coaching staff, especially offensively, needed to have some better games. I think they relied way too much on Brandon Aubrey. Let's just hope that he's going to be good coming in next season, because he sure as hell missed a lot of field goals. So my overall question to you guys is, from a coaching perspective, we know Eberflus is possibly gone, but I mean, do you all not agree? If McCarthy was current coach, everybody would be screaming, "Hey, let's fire McCarthy." And if we come back and have 3 seasons in a row next year of a losing season, what happens to Schottenheimer? Because that'll be 2 losing seasons in a row. I mean, to go ahead of time, but that's kind of what I'm thinking from a coaching perspective. God bless you guys. I'll be listening all the time. Thanks.
Thank you. I think Schottenheimer deserves a little bit of leeway with the way this roster is constructed and the way the defense performed, to say, all right, we're not going to get rid of him after 1 year. If Mike McCarthy was still head coach, it would have been year, 5?
Yeah, he'd have been out because he had 5 opportunities.
Right.
It's different than a guy who has never been a head coach before.
Especially 12-5, 12-5, 12-5, 7-7. Okay, you know what?
5.
Yeah, let's move on and just go somewhere else. Someone in their first year, you're not going – and you know the Joneses. They're not going to hire a coach for 1 year and then get rid of him.
Right. I don't think they'll hire a coach for 2 years.
Because Chan Gailey had 2 playoff appearances, and then he fired him, and he always talks about that's the one regret he had. So, you know, that's not going to happen. I think he does deserve a little bit of leeway, especially with the way this roster is constructed. Again, no one expected this team to go and win double-digit games and win the NFC East. No one thought it was going to be the case. It's just you can have varying opinions about how a season plays out, even though you thought that it ended up how you thought it was going to end up.
Right.
7, 8, 9 wins, that's how we thought it was going to end up. It did. But you saw a couple of instances where if they would have gotten their act together, maybe they could have surprised someone or made a run, because Philadelphia didn't exactly just run away with this thing. There were times that it was there for them. They just couldn't get it done and couldn't perform. It was definitely on that defense, how they just couldn't stop anyone. And the pressure, I feel, was on the offense to go out there and be perfect. And I think that Schottenheimer called the game knowing that you have to go out there and try and get points every single time. And did they rely a little too heavily on Brandon Aubrey? Probably.
Yeah.
And that's a weapon that when you have it, it's great, because he can go out there and nail those 60-yarders. But then they are 58 60-yard field goals he's missing, and everyone's saying, oh, my gosh, I can't believe he missed it. That's a long-ass field goal.
He's horrible. Get rid of him.
I don't think he has the yips. It's just like everything's kind of just catching up with him. Like, man, it's 60 yards. Yes, those aren't automatic. He makes them look automatic, but they aren't.
Yeah.
So they're always going to say, all right, you know what, that was the first year. We have to make sure that we are putting everyone around them for them to be successful. And there's no way they thought they did that defensively because of the changes that they made. After the Michael trade, they said, oh, we got to get better. Let's go get Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams and use some of our high valuable assets to go get them, knowing that maybe it was give them a little kick in the pants to see if they can go out there and catch Philadelphia, because they didn't run off with that division. So, man, I see what Hakeem is saying, but there's no way it would even be close to thinking that Schottenheimer wouldn't be here for another 2-3 years.
I'd actually like to see him again. I wouldn't want to get rid of Schottenheimer.
With a competent defense.
Right. To see, because the offense was fine, and that's his thing. Maybe he needed to be more hands-on earlier. Maybe that's part of the problem, is since he's the play caller, he allowed Eberflus, who is a former head coach himself, to, hey, I trust that you've got the defense. And maybe he didn't realize until it was too late, and by that time, what can you really do?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think I'd be curious to see, and maybe we'll get an opportunity to talk to him at camp next year when we're all out there. What are some things that he did this year where, looking back, he goes, okay, I learned not to do this. I wouldn't do this the same way. That's why I'd like to see him come back. He's a positive guy, and I do think under the construction of how this franchise is run, I don't know how much you can truly change the culture, but it feels like he did about as good as you could in attempting to do that.
Yeah. There are some instances where you will look and say, this dude's just lost the room.
Right.
That was definitely Wade Phillips. And it felt like Jason Garrett for a minute lost the room.
Right.
It doesn't feel like
no, not at all. I don't think so.
Schottenheimer's lost the room. They just didn't have the personnel or the coaching staff defensively to even keep up in this league.
Right. And that's where the frustration is. you got to figure it out defensively. I just wish at some point let the head coach live and die by his decisions. Not, hey, here's the defensive coordinator we hired for you before we hired you.
Right.
Because, again, everybody would say, and it's easy to do, well, get rid of Schottenheimer and go get whatever the hot young coaching candidate is. Well, that guy's not going to come here, nor is Jerry going to pay him.
And continue to pay
Right, that's not going to happen.
Schottenheimer because, right. No, that's not going to happen at all.
Jerry is not going to go out and get Ben Johnson. He's not going to pay a coach $13 million a year, which is why when he says I'd write the biggest check whatever for a Super Bowl, it's ridiculous because he never does because there's no salary cap. He could go pay a coach $30 million if he wanted to, but he doesn't.
Nope.
Because he'd rather pay him $4 million and go 7-9-1 and then maybe stumble into a 10-7 season next year and be like, see, we're all right.
Man, you wasted a Dak year that I don't know if he can roll that out again.
Yeah,
and especially with the way you can construct this team if you don't want to pay George Pickens $30 million or even 29 or whatever the tag is. And they're saying, man, we've got to make sure this defense is fixed. We got to have resources for this defense. And I don't know if we can go into that next season with 2 wide receivers making that much money and fix the defense. That's what they're going to say. And you know what? It does come a point to where you just can't pay everyone. And you have to make sure that you're maneuvering some things around and you can get in trouble. But if you're talking about the here and now, you're trying to improve drastically and make sure that the window for your franchise quarterback is handled well, then you've got to make sure that you invest in it. Man, I will not forget, as you harped on so much at the draft, if you're going to pay your quarterback $60 million, you've got to invest in your offense to make sure that that is going to pay off. And now we're saying you got to make sure those 2 first-rounders are defense. And if not, my goodness, it has to be someone super special to fall in the first round for you to say, I'm going to use this on an offensive player. I don't care if it's offensive line, receiver, running back, whatever. You got to – oh, my God, I cannot believe this dude fell. We had no choice but to get him. If you're not using those 2 first-rounders on defense, it has to be someone like that. And even that is going to raise an eyebrow too.
Yeah, because I just don't know where, unless you're just telling Pickens, hey, we have no interest, and you think Flanoy is going to come in because –
has he done enough to be wide receiver number 2?
Right, and again, this is if you buy into – which I don't know that I buy into this, but if I'm going to buy into what they're trying to sell us, and you think that there's an opportunity here while Dak is playing at this level, then what is it going to be? Because you and I have talked about this. Is he going to Russell Wilson himself and drop off a table after next year, after the year after that? We have no idea. So what's the window? If you believe in Dak and you believe you can win with him, you got 2 more years, 3 more years? So when you draft these young offensive skill position players outside of running back, a tight end, a wide receiver, generally speaking, those guys take 2 to 3 years to really develop to become what they're supposed to be. Can you afford to allow that to happen on this offense with Dak going into year 11 next year?
There's no way they would have thought before the season started that you would say you were going to get 17 healthy weeks out of Dak.
Yeah.
That they wouldn't rub their hands together and saying, oh, we're 11-6. We're going to the playoffs. We're winning or going to, competing for the NFC East.
I thought they could get 10 wins with a fully healthy Dak, but I didn't know the defense was going to be the worst defense in franchise history. And there's the balance on this thing.
My goodness, it let them down so badly, man. That is, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to hear that coming out of the game today at the Meadowlands, and even when they get back to the Star and they have those exit interviews, they're going to talk about how great or how really good and effective this offense was.
Yeah, you're hearing it now. So Dak at the podium after the game said that this is one of the first seasons I can't necessarily correlate my play to the wins or losses, and then went on to say they were one of the NFL's best offenses and they scored a lot. He's right.
He is right.
He's sitting there going, what do you want me to do? My offense averaged 30 points a game. I didn't know the damn defense was also going to give up 30 points a game. If they'd given up 27 points a game, they'd have won 2 or 3 more games. But they didn't.
No, they didn't. They did not.
It's incredible.
They made the Giants for 2 weeks look like a competent football team in week 2 and week 17 with 37 and 34 points. That defense was so bad all year long. Now, it's about who you're going to bring in to see how you can replace Matt Eberflus and maximize the personnel that you have. Because, again, it's so easy for us to say, just get rid of everyone and start over. Cowboys aren't doing that. Not on the defensive side.
There's only so much you can do.
There's only so much you can do. And there are going to be some guys that you have to bring back, but you have to have someone. Is it going to Schottenheimer saying, okay, who do you want? But that's even laughable for me to even think about. They'll go and ask him and consider it, and then they'll just bring whoever they want to bring in because that's what they've been doing the last 3 decades around here.
That's how it works, and that's why it seems like it has never changed. And I again, you got to go through the offseason. It's hard to be optimistic about 2026 when you just came off what we saw today and what we saw all season for a 7-9-1 team. We've got to get through whatever moves they're going to make in free agency in March, and let's get to the draft, and let's get to camp and see, because you keep going back to this, and I think this is true, even at camp this past year, most of us thought this was a team that would win 7 and 9 games. Now, 7 is what they ended up winning. They did, but even 9 and 8, they wouldn't have gotten into the playoffs. 8 and 9 wouldn't have gotten you into the playoffs unless you transfer yourself to the NFC South. But it's just so hard to know what this is going to look like, because I think there's going to be a really big change in personnel defensively and maybe scheme-wise. So until we know what that's going to look like, it's hard to have any thought of, can you move forward into a positive direction next year? Because we just don't know. Offensively, Pickens, we brought that up. Huge question. Running back's a question. But offensively, I feel like they're going to be okay regardless. They were okay last year without George Pickens. Now, they were elite with George Pickens and an effective running back in Javonte Williams. I think they can do okay in that regard. But, man, you've got to get – we talked about this all year. You can't be the 32nd. Just go be the 22nd best defense.
Yeah, you're not asking them to be top 5.
Don't even be average.
Right.
Just don't be the worst.
And they were the worst pretty much all year. And even one stat that when you look as far as defense goes, and the one thing about Dan Quinn and how they would turn the ball over and give this offense short fields, they didn't have that. They were dead last in starting average field position in the NFL, the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Meaning they had the drive. And the offense was effective and scored a ton of points even after having to drive long fields pretty much the entire dang game.
Yep. Puts a lot of pressure on your offense to not make mistakes. And we saw that time and time again. If the offense played to 80% of its capacity, they lost. The offense had to be perfect for this team to win games. And when it wasn't, the defense just wasn't good enough to bail them out ever. I can't recall a single time where you go, thank God the defense showed up today. They just lost those games because the defense never showed up today. Maybe the Raiders, but again, it's the Raiders.
Right. And you know what? It was the game against the Jets where the defense had the one play to where Breece Hall was.
Okay,
if I can remember right. He was like, they were driving, and it looked like he was about to score. They forced the fumble, and then the offense took over, and they won that game 37-22.
So October 5th.
Against two of the worst teams in the NFL, we could talk about how the defense went out there and made plays.
So 3 months ago, almost to the day, the defense made a play.
Yep.
So that's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. How long have we been going, Joe? Oh,
that's it.
Okay.
Well, it's been fun.
It has been fun.
And we got to thank Desperados. Cause,
no doubt about it.
Another year of awesomeness with Desperados.
They're the best, man. Desperados Mexican Restaurant. They have 2 locations and 1 on the way. If you have any catering needs, go to Desperados. If you want to go out and have a fantastic dinner, go to Desperados. Yes. They have really, truly been good to us here for over a decade on the pre- and post-game show. Man, this is year 18 and a half for me, I do believe, doing the Cowboys post-game show.
That's insane.
And they've been here for the majority of the time I've been here and really enjoy what they've done, and we want to thank them. I also want to thank Joe Lecce, who produces this Cowboys post-game show ever since I've been doing it, and he's been awesome. Always gives us great information. We have a fun time watching the games together.
We do.
It's the only time it's the only way I know to watch football games. It's with Joe. That's all I've been doing for the last almost 20 years, watching football games with Joe. So thank him. EA, thank you so much for today, man. Truly appreciate it. And everyone who's been a part of the post-game show throughout this year. It's been a frustrating year, and we'll have plenty to say about the post-game show on our show. We are back tomorrow.
Yes.
9 to 1.
Dry dock is over.
It is over. We'll be back talking about this debacle of a game, 34-17, and this craziness, madness of a season for the Dallas Cowboys that ends 7-9-1. We'll have plenty to say about that tomorrow and the time to come before the draft in April in Pittsburgh. And I know we were at the draft last year, and I'm thinking we're going to be at the draft in Pittsburgh again this year. So looking forward to that. Thank you guys again so much for sticking with us on the postgame show throughout this crazy season. And we will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. as we are back to talk Cowboys and college football and whatever the hell else happened to us on Dry Dock. Again, it's the Cowboys postgame show. They lose 34-17 to the Giants, 7-9-1, and we'll see what kind of changes they are going to make in Cowboy land. Thank you. Postgame out.
Too bad our time on the Cowboys postgame show is done and dusted. Well, that's a wrap on another Cowboys season with no playoffs. Thanks a lot, Jerry. We'll have all off-season to dissect, discuss, and dive into what the Cowboys need to do to improve. And that starts tomorrow morning at 6 on the Musers. And all day, as all the ticket shows are back from Holiday Dry Dock and in your ear holes with hot Cowboys opinions. We now return to our regularly scheduled programming, whatever that is, on Sports Radio 96.7 and 1310 The Ticket.